We have a president who started out when the country was together and had a wonderful leader, and he is tearing us limb from limb, destroying every institution.
Let's talk about this Donald Trump, even though we don't want to. Let's bring it on the panel for this.
He's a car salesman. He's a car salesman.
Absolutely.
And he's, you know, he didn't make America great again, but he did turn back the odometer. So who knows what the hell is wrong with us?
Politics usually takes itself incredibly seriously, dramatic, intense, high stakes. Unfortunately for Donald Trump, nobody passed that memo along to Jim Carrey. Rather than following the standard political playbook, the iconic comedian handled the whole situation like a comedy skit that somehow broke free into the real world. And once that happened, things escalated into a degree of absurdity that even professional Hollywood screenwriters would have trouble conjuring. But how did a single joke snowball into a viral phenomenon? And what exactly did Carrey do that left the entire internet completely speechless? Stay with us, because this story only gets more bizarre as it unfolds.
You know, and covering for this president is like putting makeup on a melanoma. You know, not only unsightly, but it's dangerous. I'd see that everybody's a hypocrite because everybody's imagined themselves standing there with his head. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe at least half the country. You know, we're in a tough spot. It's a very, very divided world, and those on I guess you'd call it the left side. I just call it the sensible side. As you know, we're sitting there watching this nonsense happen.
Before we continue, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust us, this is one you absolutely do not want to miss. For years, the political world has operated under an unspoken code where everyone pretends that debates are sophisticated intellectual contests. Speeches are treated as historic milestones, and press conferences are handled like sacred democratic ceremonies.
Hatred of immigrants, contempt for the truth, greed, and the abuse of power. We are fighting those same evils today. And we need to be clear, shamelessness is not and will never be a superpower. It is the mark of a villain. Kidnapping children is not what great nations do. Almost half of America at this moment believes there is a sinister deep state diabolically plotting to what? Give them health care?
Then along comes someone like Jim Carrey, who storms into the conversation, flips the whole table upside down, and suddenly that intellectual chess match starts looking more like a circus convention equipped with microphones. This particular episode began the way most modern political firestorms do, with the internet doing exactly what it does best, transforming every minor dispute into a worldwide dramatic spectacle.
Why don't I have a high approval rating with respect and the administration? And they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom. He's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person.
The difference this time was that the person striking the match was not a seasoned politician or a professional outrage merchant billing by the hour. The ignition came from a comedian whose entire legacy has been built on bending reality until it snaps like an overstretched rubber band.
We are parentless, you know, and we are babysat by the television. We're taught how to think by the television. That's the dangerous thing about what's going on right now. There are generations growing up right now who are learning to lie. That lying is okay. That this
kids say fake news.
That you're supposed to hate half the country. You know? And if anything, we've got to get back to a place where we realize that a vote is not who you are. You know, and because you voted Republican, you're not stupid, you're not different, you're not worthless.
When that comedian decides to turn his focus towards someone like Donald Trump, a man who already approaches headlines like a competitive sport, the outcome becomes something closer to performance art than a genuine political argument.
Administration is a rabid dog, and it's turning us upside down. And all, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's as obvious as the nose on your face. You know, but people have made these elections and politics in general who they are, and it's not who you are. You can make a bad decision about a candidate. It's not who you are.
The peculiar thing about this collision is that both figures were already famous for inhabiting larger-than-life versions of reality. One constructed an empire on dramatic speeches, television showmanship, and a brand of self-assurance that could power a small nation. The other built his legacy on contorting his face into a human cartoon and persuading millions that a grown adult speaking through his rear end could somehow qualify as cinematic brilliance. The pairing sounds like the premise of a bizarre Hollywood comedy. In practice, it became one of the internet's most beloved spectacles, a comedian treating politics like a surreal art installation while the internet watched with popcorn in hand. For anyone who tracked Jim Carrey's career, this trajectory felt almost inevitable. He later channeled that same unbridled energy into performances in films like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, where subtlety was not merely overlooked but thoroughly demolished. So when politics started resembling a circus, Carrey apparently surveyed the scene and concluded that the circus could use a trained professional clown. Rather than responding with polite commentary or carefully calibrated political language, he tackled it the same way he approaches virtually everything in life, by amplifying every element until the entire situation appeared ridiculous from every conceivable angle.
Using a lot of political drawings.
Yeah.
Why?
You
Why?
have?
Even though, my cartoons might be a little crass, I'm being crass because I believe that we need to be crass right now in a way, and yet with kindness, with love. We have to express this horrible feeling that we have.
I just go to work and cry in every scene.
And this is where things became genuinely compelling, because satire carries a peculiar kind of power when it collides with politics. Serious arguments can be endlessly debated, but ridicule has a unique ability to slip beneath defenses and reduce powerful figures to punchlines. Carrey grasped this instinctively, and the internet took notice immediately. Every time he leaned further into the absurdity of the moment, social media erupted like a stadium crowd watching an unexpected boxing match where one fighter arrived equipped with rubber limbs and cartoon sound effects. People who typically steered clear of political discussions suddenly became captivated, not because they craved policy analysis, but because the entire spectacle had grown entertaining in a way political debates almost never are. Meanwhile, Trump remained exactly what he has always been, a walking headline machine who thrives in environments where attention functions as currency. The internet, naturally, responded exactly as it always does when two massive personalities collide, by converting every moment into memes, debates, and relentless commentary from people who suddenly considered themselves expert political analysts simply because they owned a smartphone.
Only because they hate Trump. But I hate them too, you know that? So it's sort of I really do, I hate them. I cannot stand them because I really believe they hate our country. You want to know the truth?
There's no meaning to any of this. You
Right.
got to admit it's completely meaningless. I don't believe that you exist. It's not our world.
None
That's
of
the
this is
key.
real?
Nope.
So you're just passing
We don't
through.
matter. We don't matter.
Oh, wow.
There's the good news.
Okay.
What made Carrey's approach particularly noteworthy was that he never attempted to sound like a policy expert or a political strategist. Instead, he treated the entire episode like an enormous canvas where exaggeration, satire, and theatrical mockery could be deployed to highlight just how bizarre modern politics had become. For decades, comedians have occupied this role in American culture. Figures like Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert demonstrated that satire can sometimes expose political absurdity far more effectively than conventional news coverage. Carrey simply took that same formula and cranked it up to the level of cartoon physics. Rather than measured satire, he delivered the comedic equivalent of a fireworks display where every gesture, remark, and performance felt deliberately overstated, reminding audiences that politics sometimes resembles theater more than actual governance. And yet, whether people adored it or despised it, they simply could not stop watching. That is the secret ingredient in modern media: attention. Trump has constructed an entire career around understanding how attention operates, which makes the dynamic between him and Carrey particularly fascinating. One man mastered the craft of dominating the news cycle through bold proclamations and relentless presence. The other mastered the art of commanding a scene through comedic absurdity.
It doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean you're different. I can break bread with anybody in this country. I love people in this country. I love the heartland of this country. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, it's become obvious that the choice was a bad one. We just need to change it. And if you can't vote for a Democrat, at least let all this flood of information that's so negative and so obvious keep you home.
When those two skill sets collide, the result becomes something closer to cultural theater than political debate. The most entertaining dimension of the entire saga was how it exposed the peculiar relationship between politics and entertainment in the contemporary world. Once upon a time, politicians worked very hard to project an image of calm, professionalism, and presidential composure. Today, politics frequently resembles a reality television competition where dramatic personalities battle for maximum screen time. Trump understood this environment perfectly because he literally arrived from the world of television spectacle before ever entering politics. Carrey, meanwhile, understood something equally significant: the moment politics starts behaving like entertainment, comedians gain an enormous advantage. Some viewers treated the entire exchange like a sporting rivalry, cheering for their preferred side with the fervor of football fans during a championship. Others watched with a blend of amusement and disbelief, wondering how political discourse had evolved into something that looked suspiciously like a Hollywood satire film. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos stood Jim Carrey, doing what he has always done best, leaning into the absurdity with the confidence of a man who understands that exaggeration frequently reveals uncomfortable truths.
I just want to express it in a positive way. You know, I mean, I want to turn everything painful into art.
And you react to the pipe bomb. Are you afraid personally ever?
Apparently, I was threatened on Twitter, so I don't know. I didn't see the thing. I heard there was, some severed goat head, and I'll see you soon kind of thing. But,
You won't be silent.
you got to speak, man. You can't. This is not a time to clam up, and not a time to get frightened. You have to do what you have to do. This is dire.
The irony of the situation is that both Carrey and Trump operate in worlds where larger-than-life personalities are not merely accepted but actively rewarded. Trump built a brand on theatrical confidence, sweeping claims, and an unrelenting capacity to dominate attention. Carrey built a career on performances so exaggerated that reality itself occasionally seemed optional. When those two approaches intersected, the entire political conversation briefly transformed into something that felt less like a policy discussion and more like a full-scale cultural spectacle. It was the kind of moment where comedians, commentators, and internet users all gathered around the same digital campfire to watch the sparks fly. And every time the situation appeared to settle down, another wave of reactions would roll across social media, proving once again that modern politics is frequently powered by the same energy that fuels viral entertainment. The boundary between governance and spectacle had grown so blurred that a comedian confronting a former president felt entirely unremarkable. Somewhere along the way, politics stopped being a distant realm of serious policy deliberation and transformed into something that could be consumed like a weekly television series. And in that environment, figures like Jim Carrey become especially influential because comedians specialize in exposing the absurd dimensions of serious institutions.
The movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week, and we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an incompetent, grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movies.
And when the institution in question already behaves like a theatrical production, satire becomes practically unavoidable. At various moments throughout this cultural showdown, observers began recognizing that the entire episode revealed more about modern media than it did about either personality involved. The internet rewards spectacle, exaggeration, and emotional reaction because those elements travel faster than calm, measured discussion. Carrey understood the power of exaggeration. Trump understood the power of attention. The collision of those two forces produced a story that the internet was constitutionally incapable of resisting. But one fact remained impossible to dismiss: millions of people were watching, laughing, arguing, and circulating the spectacle across the internet. In a media landscape where attention equals influence, that reaction alone elevated the entire situation into a cultural event. And somewhere, one can almost picture Jim Carrey smiling at the chaos, recognizing that the world had once again confirmed his favorite comedic principle: reality becomes far easier to comprehend when you exaggerate it until everyone notices just how strange it already was.
Back my 8-year-old self. It's been a gift from God. It's literally brought me back to 8 years old, where I used to sit in my room. Trump is toast.
Yeah, man.
And so you just kind of digest the news of the
it's
day.
It's an affirmation.
Robert Mueller?
Robert Mueller putting the squeeze on the president. Just to relieve the stress. You know what I mean? This is stress reliever.
And here we have...
That's Space Force.
That's the Space Force, yeah.
That's the beginning of Space
The
Force.
deeper the spectacle ran, the more it began to resemble a strange cultural mirror reflecting the unusual era everyone was living through. Politics had grown louder, social media had grown faster, and public figures had become characters in an endless reality show where every opinion instantly converted into a headline. In the middle of that turbulence stood Jim Carrey, a comedian who had spent decades proving that exaggeration can uncover the truth concealed beneath serious faces. What made his involvement so compelling was that he did not behave like a cautious public figure anxious about alienating one side of the political spectrum or the other. Instead, he carried himself exactly like a comedian who recognized that modern politics already contained enough absurdity to fuel 10 full seasons of comedy sketches. Rather than treading carefully around the drama, he dove directly into it with the enthusiasm of someone who had just stumbled upon an unlimited reservoir of comedic material. If modern politics runs on visibility, then Trump has always behaved like a man who owns the largest billboard in the city. This is precisely why the clash captivated so many people. Both personalities understood the mechanics of attention, but they approached it from entirely opposite directions.
And what do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
Yeah, she'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart, a form of hate speech. So maybe they'll have to go after you. Look, we want everything to be fair. It hasn't been fair. And the radical left has done tremendous damage to the country.
Trump dominated headlines through dramatic declarations and relentless visibility, while Carrey dominated conversations through theatrical satire that transformed serious topics into elaborate punchlines. Watching those two forces collide felt somewhat like watching a tornado wander into a fireworks factory. Everything was loud, chaotic, and strangely hypnotic. For longtime fans of Jim Carrey, however, this evolution from Hollywood comedian to cultural satirist did not appear as abrupt as it seemed to casual observers. Over the years, Carrey had already revealed traces of a more contemplative and philosophical dimension, particularly in films like The Truman Show, where the narrative explored the unsettling notion that a person's entire life could be packaged as entertainment for millions of viewers. Ironically, modern politics had begun looking suspiciously similar to that very concept. Instead, he approached the entire political atmosphere like an artist studying a bewildering painting, pointing out the strange details that everyone else had gradually accepted as ordinary. And suddenly, people began appreciating just how unusual the entire situation had actually become. Political debates resembled entertainment panel discussions. Campaign speeches bore a suspicious resemblance to dramatic theatrical monologues. Social media reactions spread faster than official news reports. The boundary between performance and governance had grown so thin that even casual observers could detect the theatrical elements everywhere.
Obamagate. It's been going on for a long time. It's been going on from before I even got elected. And it's a disgrace that it happened. And if you look at what's gone on, and if you look at now all of this information that's being released, and from what should never be allowed to you'll be seeing
In that kind of environment, satire does not exist merely for laughs. It operates like a spotlight illuminating the corners of the system that appear ridiculous the moment someone dares to exaggerate them. That is precisely the territory where Jim Carrey flourishes. He has always treated reality as something malleable, something that can be stretched, twisted, and reshaped until its concealed humor becomes impossible to overlook. For decades, he applied this to fictional characters and amplified movie performances. Now, he was directing those same comedic instincts toward political theater. Every joke, sketch, and exaggerated remark traveled across the internet at extraordinary speed, reaching audiences who might never tune into a political debate, but were perfectly happy to watch a celebrity transform political drama into comedic theater. But the reality of modern culture makes that separation nearly impossible to maintain. And whether people loved it, despised it, or simply watched out of pure curiosity, they kept coming back. Because when a master of surreal comedy decides to poke the loudest beehive in modern politics, the outcome is rarely subdued. It is loud, unpredictable, and strangely mesmerizing, which may be the most accurate description of this entire era in the first place.